Have you ever paused in the silence of the night, staring into the darkness of your bedroom ceiling and wondered, what actually happens when we die? I'm not talking about what your religion taught you, or what Hollywood has dramatized, the glowing gates of heaven or fiery pits of hell. I'm asking you, yes, you personally, when you take that final breath, what will you experience next? Picture this. You're lying in your bed, the room is quiet, you're breathing slow and steady. Suddenly, your heartbeat gently fades, your breath pauses, and you're floating. You can still sense your surroundings, your familiar room, the furniture, the photographs, but they feel distant, almost dreamlike. An ethereal sense of detachment washes over you. It's peaceful, yet strangely unsettling. You think you're dreaming, but this is no dream. This is the moment after your death, the threshold you've always wondered about. Perhaps you're skeptical. Maybe you've never accepted the comforting lies we're often told, like an afterlife with fluffy clouds or eternal darkness awaiting us. Deep down, you suspect there's more to death than mere oblivion. You might even fear that the afterlife is not a place of rest, but an unknown challenge, something more profound and mysterious. You're not alone. For centuries, hidden from the masses, Sanskrit, a mysterious manuscript, has described exactly what occurs after we die. Not through myths or legends, but through documented spiritual experiences by those who claim to have glimpsed beyond the veil. Known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this ancient text, kept secret for over 1,200 years, offers a shockingly detailed map of the journey your consciousness takes immediately after death. This manuscript insists death is not the final curtain, but rather the beginning of a profound spiritual odyssey lasting precisely 49 days. This journey is called the Bardo, an intermediate, surreal state between death and rebirth. It's described not as a restful paradise or terrifying hell, but as an intense spiritual test, unlike anything you've ever imagined. Imagine waking up in a strange land filled with vivid illusions, visions that shift and morph, showing you faces of people you've loved, memories you've cherished but twisted, changed somehow. Imagine the very things you feared most in life appearing as tangible, horrifying figures, each challenging you to confront your deepest regrets and hidden guilts. Some souls successfully navigate this maze, breaking free from the endless cycle of reincarnation to reach enlightenment. But sadly, the vast majority get trapped, not because they're weak or undeserving, but simply because they're completely unaware they're even being tested. Today, I invite you to explore each stage of this incredible journey with me. Together, we will walk through every step, every illusion, every trap you might face. You'll learn exactly how to prepare yourself, how to recognize illusions for what they are, and ultimately, how to gain control of your spiritual destiny. But there's a catch, a crucial detail many overlook. Preparation for death doesn't start the moment your heart stops. It begins right now, in this very instant, while you're still alive, still breathing, still thinking. Every choice you make, every thought you entertain, every emotion you nurture or suppress is shaping what you'll face after your final breath. Because the unsettling truth is this: if you're not conscious in life, if you live blindly, caught in trivial distractions and meaningless routines, you won't suddenly gain awareness in death. When your moment arrives, and it will, awareness is the only thing you'll have left. And by then, if you're not ready, it's already far too late. Death is not the end. We've been told since childhood that death is the end, that it's the finish line. The lights go out and there's nothing more. But what if everything you've been told is wrong? What if death is not the end at all, but the most important transition you'll ever make? The Tibetan Book of the Dead doesn't describe death as a closing door. It describes it as a passage into a state called the Bardo, where the soul journeys for 49 days before its next incarnation, or liberation. Let's imagine it. You've just died. There was no explosion, no final movie-style moment, just a sudden stillness. The world fades into a subtle silence. You feel a strange weightlessness. You're aware, still you, but no longer in your body. Maybe you're in a hospital room. Maybe you passed in your sleep. Maybe it was sudden. You see people crying over your body, or maybe no one has noticed yet. Either way, you try to speak, to touch, to shout, but your words have no sound. Your fingers pass through matter. You begin to float, to observe. A surreal calmness settles in, then confusion. This is not what you expected. Where are the angels? The devils? The gates? Then, a realization dawns. You're still thinking, still aware, still you. This is the first shock after death. According to ancient teachings, this moment, when you realize you're not gone, is the beginning of the spiritual trial. You're in the Bardo. The Bardo is not a place like heaven or hell. It's a fluid, shape-shifting reality made entirely from your own mind. That's the terrifying part, and the liberating part. There are no judges, no punishments, only reflections. Every thought you've ever had, every belief, every attachment now takes form. Not symbolically, literally. The Tibetan sages taught that in this state, the mind has no physical filters. It instantly manifests your inner world into your outer reality. Did you carry fear? You'll see shadows. Did you harbor guilt? You'll meet forms of shame. Did you live with love? Then light may embrace you. You become the projector, the world around you, an ever-shifting movie of your subconscious. Let's say you spent your life chasing success but secretly feared failure. In the Bardo, you may find yourself surrounded by towering judges, their voices booming with criticisms you've heard your entire life. But none of it is real. They're echoes, ghosts of your mind. Or imagine someone who clung tightly to family, to their identity as a parent, sibling, child. In the Bardo, they might see their loved ones calling to them, reaching out from behind a veil. Yet when they reach back, the image shatters like glass, because those people have not joined them. They are projections of longing. You begin to see the truth. Everything is a test, but most fail. Not because they're unworthy, but because they don't know they're being tested. They cling, they panic, they chase after visions, and by doing so, they fall deeper into illusion, deeper into the Bardo. The ancient Tibetan masters knew this. That's why they created detailed guides to help the dying, not to escape death, but to understand it, to face it with awareness. They taught that the mind at the moment of death is 10 times more powerful than in life. Every habit, every emotion, every fear is amplified. If you don't recognize what's happening, you become enslaved by your own thoughts. But if you do recognize it, if you pause and say, "This is the Bardo, I am not this fear, I am not this desire," then something miraculous happens. You regain control, the illusions weaken, the light returns, and you move forward. This is why preparing for death is the most important thing a person can do in life. Not through superstition, but through training the mind to see clearly. Because the truth is, death is not the end, it's the mirror. And what you see in that mirror depends entirely on how you've lived. In part 2, we'll explore what happens next. The moment you encounter the first light. A radiant force so pure, so overwhelming, that to recognize it could free you forever if you don't recoil in fear. The first light after death. After the initial shock of discovering you are still conscious, still aware, still you, even without a body, you begin to drift into a new sensation, one of weightlessness, of detachment, as if you're floating outside time itself. Then, without warning, something extraordinary happens. A radiant, blinding brilliance fills your vision. It isn't like sunlight or the glow of fire. It is something deeper, more primal. This is not light that shines on the world. It's light that seems to shine from the fabric of existence itself. The Tibetan texts call this the clear light of reality, the source, the essence, the unfiltered truth of all things. And if you recognize it, if you surrender to it, you can dissolve into it. You can become one with it, escaping the cycle of birth and death forever. This is your first, best, and rarest opportunity for liberation. But there's a catch. Almost no one recognizes it. Why? Because the light is overwhelming. It's too pure, too vast. The ego, the constructed sense of self, panics. It fears erasure. It clings to identity, to memory, to everything that feels familiar. And in that moment of recoil, the opportunity is lost. Let's imagine a hypothetical scenario. You were a scientist in life, grounded in logic, trained to trust only what can be measured. When the clear light appears, your rational mind tries to explain it, contain it. But it can't. It wasn't built for this. Your fear of the unknown causes you to pull back. In that instant, the light begins to dim. Or maybe you were deeply religious, expecting to see a divine figure awaiting you. But instead, you're faced with this formless brilliance. There are no words, no face, no voice. You wait for your God to appear. And when he doesn't, doubt creeps in. You don't trust what's happening. Again, the light fades. In truth, the clear light isn't other than you. It is you. the part of you beyond personality, beyond thought, beyond emotion, the infinite awareness beneath all your lifetimes. But few recognize themselves at that level. Most only know the mask, not the source. And so, when the light arrives, most souls turn away. As the clear light fades, something else begins. Softer lights, dimmer, colored. These lights match your tendencies, your karmic imprints. Each light leads to a different realm of rebirth. The more attached you are, the more likely you'll follow one. The Tibetan masters warn, these lesser lights may feel comforting, familiar, even beautiful, but they are traps. Like a moth to flame, you are drawn in, not by logic, but by emotion, by habit. Let's say in life you are deeply attached to material success. In the Bardo, you might see a golden light shimmering like treasure. It calls to you, promises continuation, but what it really offers is rebirth into the human realm, where desire and struggle await once more. Or suppose you lived with anger, unresolved resentment. You might see a red light, vivid and pulsating, drawing you toward the realm of violence and wrath. You won't realize what's happening until it's too late. This is the danger. The first light is the purest and the one most people miss. Not because it hides, but because it reveals too much. It strips away illusion. It dissolves identity. It demands that you trust something beyond comprehension. And for most, that is simply too terrifying. But if you can prepare while still alive, through mindfulness, meditation, awareness, then when that light arrives, you might remember. You might recognize it. You might let go. And if you do, you won't just escape reincarnation. You'll return to your true nature. But for those who turn away, the Bardo journey deepens. In part 3, we descend into the world of illusion, where the mind begins projecting memories, fantasies, and shadows. And the real testing begins. The first illusions and the mind's trickery. Once the clear light has faded, once the opportunity for instant liberation has passed, you don't fall into darkness. Not yet. Instead, something deceptively gentle begins to form around you. The stillness gives way to movement. The silence to whispers. The mind, now without a body, without a world to ground itself in, does what it's always done. It begins to create. You start seeing shapes, colors, fragments of faces, places you've been, people you've loved. It feels comforting at first, familiar, safe. But make no mistake, this is the beginning of illusion. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this stage as the emergence of karmic projections, mental echoes born from your past life. Because you no longer have a physical filter, everything in your subconscious mind begins to materialize around you. Let's say you had an unresolved relationship, a parent you never made peace with. In the Bardo, you may see them appear, arms open, saying things they never said in life. You may rush to them, moved by emotion, only to watch them vanish, or change into something else. Or perhaps you lost a child. You might see them smiling, calling to you, standing in a field of golden light. The moment you run toward them, they disappear. Why? Because they were never really there. These visions aren't evil. They're not meant to harm you, but they are tests. And the danger is this: the more you engage with them, the deeper you fall into illusion. Imagine walking through a beautiful meadow, where every flower is a memory, every bird a thought. The sky above you shimmers with faces from your past, but none of it is stable. The more you chase, the more it changes. You reach for one thing, and another appears. You try to hold on, and it dissolves like smoke. This is the realm where most souls get trapped, not because it's terrifying, but because it's seductive. In life, we're addicted to our identities. We define ourselves by our stories, our relationships, our traumas, our successes. In the Bardo, these identities don't die with the body. They amplify. The mind begins recreating what's familiar, not because it's real, but because it's afraid of the unknown. And so, you may see religious figures you worshipped, even if they look different than you imagined. You may hear prayers you once recited. You might even see heaven or hell exactly as you believed them to be. But all of this is your own consciousness reflecting back at you. The Book of the Dead warns, if you fail to recognize these as projections, you'll follow them. And if you follow them, they will lead you, not to truth, but deeper into the karmic wheel of rebirth. Let's explore another example. A woman dies clinging to guilt over a betrayal. In the Bardo, she sees the person she hurt, standing still, eyes filled with sorrow. The guilt overwhelms her. She begs for forgiveness, but the figure never responds. She tries again and again, caught in a loop. What she doesn't realize is, she's not interacting with that person. She's interacting with her own guilt. In this realm, emotions become entities. Desire becomes seductive visions. Anger becomes roaring beasts. Fear becomes mazes with no exit. But all of them are illusions. They hold no real power except the power you give them. And this is the lesson. The only way out is not to run, not to fight, not to cling. The only way out is to recognize, to say, this is my mind, this is not truth, this is my attachment taking form. The moment you realize that, the illusion begins to fade. The images soften, the sounds dissolve, the chaos loses its grip. You step back into clarity, but few make it that far, because this realm isn't chaotic by accident, it's a mirror, and most people have spent their lives avoiding their reflection. In part 4, we journey deeper into the Bardo, where the illusions grow darker. The shadows more twisted, and the subconscious begins to confront its most terrifying contents. This is where the darkness doesn't come from outside, but from within you. And now, you must face it head on. Darkness arising from within. As the illusions of familiarity fade and the shimmering projections of your desires dissolve, a heavier silence begins to creep in. The images become darker, slower, more twisted. You've stepped into the deeper corridors of the Bardo, the realm where your own inner shadows rise to meet you. In the earlier stages, your mind played comforting tricks. It replayed the things you missed, the people you loved, the places you longed for. But now, it reveals something far more unsettling, the parts of you that you've spent a lifetime avoiding. These are not imaginary demons. They're not creatures from myth or legend. They are manifestations of your own guilt, your suppressed anger, your unresolved fears. And in the Bardo, they take shape. Let's imagine a man who lived with a quiet rage, always hidden beneath a mask of politeness. In this stage of the Bardo, he sees a monstrous being made of fire and bone, screaming with a voice that shakes the very air. The creature chases him, corners him, torments him. He runs and runs, not knowing that the thing chasing him is his own anger, now free of disguise. Or consider someone who betrayed a loved one and never forgave themselves. In the Bardo, they are surrounded by whispers, not in a language, but in guilt. Walls close in, faces appear and vanish. They're not being punished, they're simply seeing, in full force, the emotional residue they carried but never faced. Here, the subconscious becomes your environment. The Bardo does not judge, it does not create, it merely reveals. And in this revealing, the test becomes clear. Can you confront what you've buried? Most people, when faced with these inner shadows, panic. They try to fight the figures. They run, they scream, they beg for escape. But the harder they resist, the more powerful the visions become. The Tibetan teachings are clear. Resistance feeds illusion. Imagine standing in a dark forest where every tree whispers your regrets. You cover your ears, but the whispers grow louder. You run, but the forest stretches endlessly. Then, finally, you stop. You face one tree and listen. You hear a moment from your past, a cruel word, a lie, a betrayal. And instead of denying it, you say, "Yes, that happened. I accept it." And the tree vanishes. This is the power of acceptance. In the Bardo, confronting your darkness with calm awareness is the only way through. These aren't external enemies. They are fractured parts of your psyche seeking resolution. The more you accept, the more the shadows dissolve. But beware, not all darkness looks like horror. Sometimes it looks like seduction, a lover from your past, a temptation you never acted on, a fantasy never fulfilled. These forms smile, speak softly, and offer comfort. But their goal is the same, to hook you back into the cycle of craving. This stage tests not only your courage, but your clarity. Because anything you still cling to will manifest, and anything you cling to will pull you back. The teachings say this: in the Bardo, everything is amplified. One moment of fear becomes a nightmare. One moment of longing becomes a trap. But likewise, one moment of awareness, and pure, steady, fearless, can break the entire illusion. Think of it like this. You're in a dream, horrible things are happening, but suddenly you realize this is a dream. You don't have to run anymore. You don't have to fight, you simply observe. And the dream begins to unravel. This is what it means to master this stage of the Bardo. The Tibetan Book of the Dead calls it the wrathful deity realm. Not because actual gods attack you, but because your mind, stripped of its body, can no longer hide from its karma. And yet, this is also a sacred opportunity, because when the darkness rises, you finally see what's truly inside you. Not just your pain, but your strength. Not just your flaws, but your potential to awaken. And next, a moment of breathtaking intensity, where you must relive your entire life. Not just through your eyes, but through the hearts of everyone you ever touched. The Great Mirror, reliving your life. Now we arrive at what may be the most profound, humbling, and soul-revealing phase of the Bardo. The Great Mirror. You've passed through seductive illusions, terrifying projections, and inner shadows, but nothing compares to what happens next. Here, and in this realm of cosmic stillness, there is no light, no sound, no form, just a feeling. Something vast is about to begin. Then, it begins. Not with a flash, not with a voice, but with a memory. Your life. Not pieces of it, not highlights, not a slow-motion reel of your greatest moments. No, you relive it. Every second, every breath, every choice. But not just from your point of view. You feel it from every angle. You experience the pain you caused another as if you were them. You feel the joy you gave someone as if you were them. You don't just remember your actions, you live them again in full emotional depth. With no filter, no justification, no excuses. Imagine this. You once said something cruel in anger, then dismissed it and moved on. In the Great Mirror, you feel that sentence land in the heart of the person who heard it. You feel the confusion, the pain, the doubt. Not as a punishment, but as truth. Or maybe you once helped a stranger, something small, a forgotten gesture. But now, you feel the relief in their chest, the sudden lightness in their burden, the way that one moment shifted their entire day. In this space, there is no hierarchy of action. The universe doesn't value grand deeds over small kindnesses. Every ripple matters. You walk through your betrayals and your forgiveness, your lies and your honesty, your jealousy and your generosity. And the more you see, the more you feel a growing weight or lightness. Because what's happening isn't just observation, it's energetic imprinting. These emotions become part of your spiritual gravity. The more you carry shame, guilt, or unresolved longing, the more you are pulled back into the cycle of rebirth. But if you reach this stage with awareness, you'll recognize something essential. No one is judging you. Not God, not karma, not the universe. Only you. This is not a divine courtroom. This is a cosmic mirror, and the only eyes staring back are your own. You begin to realize the Bardo was never testing you, it was showing you. And what you do with that truth is entirely up to you. This phase can last what feels like moments, or eternities. Time becomes meaningless. For some, this is a purgatory of shame. For others, it is a wave of grace. But for all, it is real. Let's take one more hypothetical. A woman lived a life of integrity, but carried deep self-doubt. In the mirror, she sees how often her kindness changed others' lives, but she never let herself feel worthy of it. Now, as she sees her life from their eyes, she begins to cry, not from sorrow, but from finally understanding her value. Or a man who led with ego, always needing recognition. In the mirror, he sees how many were hurt by his hunger for validation. He feels the emptiness beneath it all. The mask cracks, and that's the first time he sees the boy underneath, the one who only ever wanted to be loved. It's not too late for him, not too late for anyone, because the mirror doesn't just show what you were, it offers a chance to choose what comes next. You've seen it all, felt it all, and now, the question echoes in the stillness. Can you let it go? If you can accept your past, not deny it, not be enslaved by it, but simply own it, then the mirror begins to dissolve. The weight lifts, the light grows. And if you cannot, the karmic threads tighten. The mirror doesn't punish, but it prepares. Because next comes the final test. You will stand before two paths. One leads to rebirth, the other to liberation. But the choice is subtle, hidden behind familiar illusions. Will you recognize it when it comes? The final choice, liberation or rebirth. After the mirror dissolves, after you've felt the total weight and light of your life, you are not the same soul that entered the Bardo. You've seen everything, lived everything. You've wept, laughed, surrendered, resisted, and now you arrive at the precipice. There is no ceremony, no cosmic voice offering instructions, just a quiet crossroads. One path leads to liberation, the other, back into the cycle. But here's the final deception. You won't know you're choosing, because the choice doesn't appear as a question. It appears as a feeling, a longing, a pull, a flicker of familiarity. You might see a mother's face, smiling and calling your name. You might see a lover's embrace, waiting for you. You might hear the voice of a child, smell the food of your hometown, hear the laughter of friends long gone. It feels warm, comforting, like home. But it's not home. It's your attachment, cloaked in illusion, offering you another chance, another life. And if you reach toward it, if you follow that desire, you are reborn. The soul is pulled into a womb. Memory fades. The veil returns. The cycle begins again. Most souls choose this path without knowing they've made a choice. But if you recognize what's happening, if you see the images not as promises, but as projections, you can pause. You can say, "No, I see you. You are not real. You are my mind clinging to what's familiar." And in that moment, everything changes. The illusions dissolve. The karmic pull weakens. You don't move forward or backward. You expand. You become light again. Not the clear light you first met, but now you are ready for it. This is liberation. Not a reward, not a heaven, but the end of delusion. The beginning of awareness without form. Let's imagine two souls. One sees their childhood home. The door is open. A parent waves from inside. Tears fill their eyes. They step forward and are born again. Another sees the same image, but pauses, feels the sadness, honors it, then breathes and lets go. The image fades, and they rise. The difference, awareness. That's what it all comes down to. Not morality, not belief, not worthiness. Just the simple, sacred act of being awake. In life, you would see as you practice this by noticing your thoughts without reacting. In death, this practice becomes your path to freedom. This final stage is the most subtle. There is no warning, no sign saying this is your last chance, which is why preparation in life is everything. Because if you live every day in awareness, you train yourself to recognize illusion, to pause before grasping, to love without clinging, to feel without drowning. Then, when the final choice arrives, you'll know it, not with your mind, but with your being, death as a reflection. You've come so far, through illusions and fears, through guilt and truth, through longing and liberation. Now, at the end of the Bardo journey, a quiet truth emerges, one that was always there, hidden beneath the layers of fear and hope. Death is not a punishment, it is a mirror, and this mirror does not reflect your body, your status, or your beliefs. It reflects the essence of who you really are. In life, you could abide still alive, you could hide behind identities, you could pretend, you could perform. But here, there is no mask. There is only what remains after everything false has fallen away. This final revelation is not dramatic. It's not shouted by angels or carved into stone. It's whispered, like the last breath of a dream. There was never anyone judging you, only your own consciousness. This realization changes everything. Because if no one was judging you, then it was always you who decided your path. Every fear you faced, every loop you got stuck in, every illusion you chased, every projection you believed, all of it came from within. But so did every moment of clarity, every release, every act of forgiveness and courage. Those came from within you too. And now, as you look back, not just at your life, but at your journey through the Bardo, you begin to see a pattern. What happened after death wasn't separate from life. It was an extension of it. The fears that shaped your death were the same ones that shaped your decisions in life. The clinging that pulled you toward rebirth was the same clinging you practiced every day. The clarity that gave you peace came from the presence you cultivated when you were still alive. In this way, the Bardo becomes more than a mystical realm. It becomes a reflection of how you lived. And so, the final teaching is simple. There is no death. There is only revealing. Think about it. If the Bardo is created by your own mind, and if that mind carries the habits, patterns, and attachments from life, Then the afterlife is not a foreign world, it's your inner world made visible. This is why the Tibetan masters spent their lives preparing for death, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because they knew that to face death with awareness, you must live with awareness. That's the secret, the real one, the one no one talks about. If you are not awake in life, you will not be awake in death. And if you are not awake in death, the cycle continues. But now, you know. You've walked the map. You've seen every test, every trap, every doorway to freedom. So the final reflection isn't about dying at all. It's about how you are living right now. Are you chasing illusions? Are you running from truth? Are you distracting yourself from the inner mirror? Because death does not transform you. It reveals you. And the way to prepare is not to fear less, but to see more. To stop numbing. To stop pretending. To stop waiting for later. The Bardo is not just an after-death realm. The Bardo is this moment, right here, right now. And how you move through it determines everything that comes next. In the final conclusion, we will return to the world of the living and ask the only question that truly matters. If life is your training ground for death, then how will you live now? You've just traveled through the Bardo, a realm beyond death, shaped by your own consciousness, filled with light, illusion, terror, and truth. And now, as we return to the realm of the living, we are left with a single, urgent question. If life is your preparation for death, how should you live? The Tibetan masters never meant these teachings to be frightening. They are not prophecies of doom or esoteric secrets meant to be locked away in monasteries. They are, at their heart, practical wisdom, and they exist for one purpose, to help you live better. Because everything you do now matters. Every thought, every emotion, every choice. When you lash out in anger or drown in fear, you are building the illusions that will face you later. When you love freely, act kindly, forgive deeply, you are lighting the path that you'll walk again after your final breath. Death is not the great divider, it is the great revealer. So how do we prepare? Start with awareness. Begin to notice your reactions, your patterns, your stories. Ask yourself often, is this illusion or is this truth? Live with clarity. Not because it makes you good, but because it makes you free. Practice letting go, not of responsibility, but of clinging, of attachment to identity, of the fear of being wrong, or being seen, or being vulnerable. Find stillness, even in chaos. Learn to sit with discomfort, to feel it without running, and to allow it to teach you. Because that discomfort is your doorway. That awareness is your training. And most importantly, love without expectation. That kind of love leaves no karmic residue. It liberates both the giver and the receiver. If you can do these things, then when the moment comes, you won't be caught off guard. You won't need a map, because you will be the map. And maybe, just maybe, you'll reach the clear light and recognize it. So now we return to where we began, lying in your bed. The room is quiet, your breathing is slow and steady, but tonight, you are not afraid, because now you understand. Death is not the end. It is the continuation of everything you've ever cultivated within yourself. So live well, live honestly, live awake. And if this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Share it, reflect on it, return to it, because one day, without warning, the Bardo will arrive, and the only thing you'll carry into it is you.